6 months after the strike on Pearl Harbor, the United States Pacific Fleet was largely sitting in ruins. Looking at this map of the Pacific in mid-1942 reveals a rapidly expanding sphere of Japanese control. Island by island, their forces pushed outward without any significant American resistance to slow them down. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto designed a strategy to permanently eliminate whatever naval resistance the Americans had left. He knew the U.S. forces were severely weakened, and he wanted to force a decisive final battle. American commanders were essentially operating blind across millions of square miles of ocean. If they lost their few surviving aircraft carriers in an unexpected engagement, they would lose the Pacific outright. Yamamoto chose Midway Atoll as his bait. It was a tiny footprint of coral and runway, but its proximity to Hawaii made it too valuable for the Americans to ignore. This tactical map outlines his offensive. Yamamoto's forces advanced directly on Midway to bombard the base and draw out American carriers. Once they arrive, a larger, hidden Japanese force swings in from the flanks to outnumber and sink them. The success of this maneuver hinged entirely on the Americans having no idea they were walking into a trap. From Yamamoto's perspective, the U.S. Navy was on a direct course for a perfectly designed maritime execution. But the defense of Midway actually began far from the open ocean, inside the cramped, windowless basement of Station Hypo in Hawaii. Here, Joseph Rochefort led a small team of intelligence analysts, whose sole job was to sift through intercepted, heavily encrypted Japanese radio traffic. In the weeks leading up to June, they noticed a massive spike in Japanese communications, referring to a specific, heavily targeted location codenamed AF. Rochefort suspected AF was Midway. However, military command could not commit their last remaining carriers based on a hunch from a basement code room. They needed hard empirical proof before sailing into combat. Rochefort devised a test. He instructed the base at Midway to broadcast a fake unencrypted distress call, claiming their water filtration system had broken down. This flowchart illustrates the sequence. The fake signal goes out. Shortly after, listening posts intercepted a new Japanese message reporting target AF was short on water. This reaction proved the Japanese unknowingly identified their target, entirely stripping away Yamamoto's secrecy. Armed with this intelligence, Admiral Chester W. Nimitz chose to abandon conservative military doctrine. He decided to trust his codebreakers. Nimitz positioned his own carriers at a set of coordinates known as Point Luck, silently waiting to spring an ambush exactly when the Japanese forces would be most exposed. By weaponizing a single lie about a broken water pipe, the United States Navy managed to turn a massive Japanese offensive into a trap for its own creators. On the morning of June 4th, wave after wave of Japanese planes launched their initial bombardment on Midway Atoll. While those planes were miles away attacking the island, the Japanese aircraft carriers themselves were left highly vulnerable. American torpedo bombers initiated a low-altitude counterattack, but they were slow, and Japanese defensive fighters quickly swarmed them, shooting down wave after wave. Knowing the enemy's location did not stop their bullets. Despite springing the trap perfectly, the U.S. was steadily losing the physical battle. This diagram shows what happened next. By defending against the low-flying torpedo bombers, the Japanese fighters were dragged down to sea level. This completely emptied the high-altitude airspace directly above the carriers. Right at that moment, squadrons of American dive bombers broke through the clouds, plunging straight down that unguarded vertical corridor. In a span of just 5 minutes, their bombs struck 3 separate Japanese aircraft carriers, turning their flight decks into expanding walls of fire. A 4th carrier sank a few hours later. Japan's elite naval strike force was entirely wiped out, permanently stripping them of their offensive dominance in the Pacific. Midway demonstrated that in modern combat, raw physical mass is not the ultimate weapon. The side that emerged victorious was the one that mapped the enemy's mind before a single shot was ever fired.